senior in this. Hey, it's time. Wednesday night, 7 o'clock. That means it's time for a Rebel Wrap Up. We're in season 4. We want to thank Circuit World from in Blue Ridge for providing this location for our show every week. We want to thank Blue Jeans Pizza for providing the meal for the players and the team. Also, our sponsor, Pepsi, for the drinks. And we're here with head coach Jim Pavao and offensive coordinator, again with us this week, Travis Earls. First on the couch with us, we have offensive lineman, a junior, Michael Lewis, right? We've got Michael Lewis with us, and an offensive lineman, senior Drake Green, here with us. Rebels are coming off a loss, 31-0, over at Ringgold from the Ringgold Redskins, a 31-0 loss. They're coming off that, and they got a big non-region game, big test this Friday night coming up over at Chestatee in Gainesville. So that's Friday night, 7:30. Coach, this is going to be game 3 coming up. So you have two complete, basically, stats, scoreboard, 2 different games. But let's say to the viewers, I'm not an excuse guy, and I know for sure I've been with you for years. You're not also, but Ringo's a good football team.
Yeah, they're really good football team. Very athletic. They were big. They had a lot of speed on the perimeter. On offense, and then defensively, they were big up front and real athletic in the secondary. And they're predominantly they're perennial second, third seed in in the playoffs and in the region playoffs. And I think last year they might have been a 4 seed for the first time in a while. So they're a pretty good football team, and we knew that. Kids went in and played hard. It was 7-0 at the end of the first quarter. And we had a couple one thing that interception for a touchdown that got it to 21-0 at half, and then the second half we only gave up 3 on defense. We had a snap over the head with that actually gave a touchdown up. So defensively we played pretty tough. Offensively we moved the football, but we had too many mistakes to even have a chance to beat a good team like them.
Before we get into the offense, Coach Earls, I got one more question for you on that. Opened the season with Gilmer, getting in the end zone a lot, moving the ball, getting able to open up everything you wanted to do and see about everything. Obviously, I'm not saying it's ever good to have a loss, so I'm not going there. Right. But after a game like that and a game like Ringgold, does this kind of bring you into where you're able to go in and say, okay, guys, it's time to play football. You've seen a team that is struggling this year, that things went well, and you went and played a very competitive team. Now we've got to settle in and play ball. Is it something like that?
Yeah, I mean, we talked to the kids, at half, and we talked about that. We said, hey, anybody can, be, getting after it when it's 30-0 and 40-0. And our scrimmage was the same way. It was pretty, it was going pretty. Everything was going smooth, and we talked to them about that everything was going smooth, and everybody can be front runner. When things are going bad for you, how do you react? And our guys kept playing hard and kept getting after it. And like I said, offensively, we moved the football. We just kind of shot ourselves in the foot a little bit. Defensively, we kept playing hard. So I was encouraged by our effort. Wasn't encouraged by the result, obviously. But, you look and say, if you want to be a playoff team, this is the type of team you're going to face, and these are the type of teams you're going to be playing in the region, so you've got to step your game up.
Coach, on the offense, going up against the defense that Ringgold has, what happened there that could not get the offense in the gears that it needed to be to find the end zone last Friday night?
It was pretty simple and evident if you watch the game. They were more physical than us, in the front lines. They were big. They were strong. When we executed, we did well. When we didn't execute, we didn't do too well. Not taking anything away from Ringo, we just didn't execute the way that we need to execute on offense. To move the ball forward and move the chains. That was the big deal. We didn't move the chains enough. And you know, we're going to correct some things and change some things, but you know, we have an offensive line with one returning starter, and we got to, you know, it showed a little bit against Ringgold. So we just have, now that we've gotten punched in the mouth, we'll reorganize and we'll you know, redouble our effort down, and we'll come out and do a little bit better job next time.
Both you guys are on the offensive line. Let's take on what Coach Earl said. These guys were big and strong. Okay, so you played a team. You played a team at Gilmer. Had a couple sophomores on the front. They have sophomores on their front line. They got sophomores in their defense. You go over and play Ringgold. Get some big, strong guys. How is your offense coming together, that line, and what things maybe Friday night did you guys were able to see that you say immediately, well, we got to change this, we got to get more aggressive, or we got to hold our blocks? What were some of the things that Ringgold, playing them, you were actually able to see that you got to work on?
We had to work on getting our heads in front of people whenever we turned to block them. We didn't cut block enough as we should have.
With Ringgold, we had to get to our blocks a lot faster than Gilmer, because Ringgold's a lot faster.
So actually the speed of Ringgold is what actually you guys, I don't want to say got caught off guard. I don't like to use those kind of words, but I mean the best way I know how to put it is that speed was really something that you guys had to try to handle all night long.
Yes,
and you hadn't seen that yet, right?
Right.
Right.
That's just something you hadn't seen yet.
Yeah, it's hard to duplicate a speed like that in size in practice if you don't have the same type of speed and size on the scout team. So it's really hard to duplicate that. And when you see it the first time, it's.
Well, we're also in the point of the year where there's not a whole lot of film floating around yet. I mean, this isn't week 5 and week 6 where you got 5 or 6 games and you see them play 4 or 5 different offenses or 4 or 5 different defenses.
Right.
So at the beginning of the year, you have just as much film to work with as you do, and that's it.
Well, I think the big thing, and not, a lot of times it looks like an offensive line issue, and our offensive line played hard, but if they were in a situation where they were loading the box and putting 7 in the box and playing man coverage on the perimeter, and that, when you got 5 offensive linemen and they're loading the box with 7, it's hard to block 5, 7 with 5.
That's right.
So we were in it was a situation where their perimeter players were just as big as a problem because they were playing man coverage on us, and we were not able to expose that in the passing game because of they were really skilled in the secondary. And so,
Well, not going back to this basically being redundant, but yes, Ringgold's a good football program, and it's not taken away from anybody else's. And they're fast, and maybe it's best. And I wasn't being negative any way whatsoever to any of the offensive line, but maybe it's best now that you really were able to go play a fast team.
Oh, yeah.
On defense.
Absolutely.
And say, are you able this week to take that film and work with this offense and say, do you see the speed that we could face this year?
Absolutely. I've always said, in 26 years of doing this, you learn far more from your failures than you do your successes. So you learn more from the losses. You've got to take something away from the losses and use it as an educational opportunity to change something. And that's what we've done. We've done it. We've looked at it. We've said, hey, we know what we've got to do now to get better. And collectively as a team, and we've all taken accountability for it. As an offensive coordinator, I took accountability for it. I made mistakes that game. So, I know, we've all sat there and said I've asked them, reflect on what you did well, reflect on what you didn't do well, and let's fix what you didn't do well. And I'll do the same thing. And that's what we've done all week.
Coach, one more thing before we go to break. Tell me a little bit about when you're working with these high school guys. Obviously, you love to come off the field 44, 66, something, and a goose egg on the other side of the board. That's, nothing wrong with that. But the adrenaline of not having to play 2 touchdowns down. And I mean, as long as you've been coaching, if you're going to have success, you have to be the kind of team that knows how to play with down 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
We'll call it the UCLA rule. Right. Right.
Yeah.
You got to know how to play. You got to know how to give up 28 on have the other team give up. But you know what I'm saying. So
sure.
Where is this team in your experience here with this program, as far as being the group of guys that can understand in some of these games when you get into region play, and so you might be down 10. And
Yeah, I think, I think we showed some times. I mean, like I'm going to talk to the defense. I mean, talk about the defense because we had given up 14 in the first half. Of course, it was 21, but we had given up 14, and in the second half we only gave up 3. So I think we were playing down, and they understood that we couldn't have any more missed assignments. We couldn't give up big plays, because if we started giving up more points, now we're putting our offense in a situation where we're saying, hey, you got to score 4 or 5 times for us to win. We tried to keep it to where we were in a situation where, if they could get the ball moving, have an opportunity, and they could score a couple times, it put us right back in the game. And so I felt defensively kind of rise their play, and I think they understood how to play from behind. So that was, I'm encouraged there, with that. Offensively, it's again, it's one of those where I thought the kids kept playing hard, and it just didn't quite click. And that's that's I don't want to say that's okay, but that we learn from that and we move on. It's kind of one of those things where they'll get in that situation possibly in the future, and now all of a sudden they'll keep playing hard like they had played really hard, but now all of a sudden it'll click. We won't get that penalty that stops a drive, or we won't get that missed assignment that you get a tackle for loss, and now all of a sudden instead of it being 3rd and 3, it's 3rd and 8. And so I was encouraged by the effort. And I guess that's the basic thing I can say. I was encouraged by the effort of the players.
Michael, before we go to break, and we get our next 2 guests in here, I ask every week, every individual player, when you came to practice Monday, what did you say I can work on? I personally need to work on. I took away Friday. I need to go work on, get better at. What do you feel your focus needs to be this week?
I feel like I need
Oh,
to,
sorry, that's Michael. Sorry. I felt like I was talking to him for a minute. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I felt like I needed to get my head across more whenever I was running, and need to get downfield and block to the linebackers more.
Drake, what about you? What was that for you that you said when I get there Monday, I can work harder, I can do better, I want to work on?
Just to fire off the ball faster and get to my block faster.
Coach, let me before we do take this break, like he was saying, I don't want to keep referring back to game 1, but game 1 you did not see the challenges from a defense like the other night, like bringing up 7 in the box. I mean, did you see some of the major challenges that you have to deal with? What are 2 or 3 of the biggest challenges that you guys seen for the first time this year, Friday night, that you got to address with your offense?
Sure. Well, it's a really good question, but our biggest challenge right now is to get the ball downfield and spread it out in the passing game. I think what happened was in the Gilmer game, we were successful running the ball. Ringgold saw that, and they game planned well for it. They loaded that box. And we were not very successful getting the ball out on the perimeter the way we should. We threw a few out there. We got some screens going. We were mildly successful, but not as successful as we need to be. So we need to game plan for that and make sure that we can get the ball outside on the perimeter in the passing game.
Okay, we're going to take a brief break, and when we come back, we're going to have 2 more Rebels on the couch here, 2 more guests. We want to thank Circuit World in Blue Ridge. We're at Circuit World in Blue Ridge. We want to thank Blue Jeans Pizza for the meal tonight and Pepsi for the drinks. And we'll be back right after these messages and talk about Chestatee this coming Friday night.
In 1981, Reed Nicholson began selling tires out of an old barn in Mineral Bluff. Little did he know that he had just laid the groundwork for the most trusted names in automotive services in the Blue Ridge area. In 1997, Nicholson Tire Center became what it is today, holding the same values of faith, family, and great customer service. 2 locations to serve you, and the Blue Ridge location is currently expanding to offer fast service and the largest U-Haul provider in Georgia. Nicholson Tire Center, Blue Ridge, and Mineral Bluff.
Circuit World, brand name merchandise at unbelievably low prices. Furniture, appliances, and electronics. Circuit World is locally owned and operated, serving the tri-state area. Circuit World has highly trained professionals to help Visit your hometown Circuit World today. 3 locations in Georgia, Ellijay, Blue Ridge, and Blairsville, Franklin, and Murphy, North Carolina. No credit checks, so let Circuit World deliver to you today.
This summer, nothing says love like a box of truffles, especially if that box of truffles is in a blizzard.
This is all my favorite truffles. Fudge, caramel, and peanut butter. It's like a surprise in every bite. Bet you're full of surprises.
Actually, I'm full of chicken strips. Just had my break.
You're cute.
Still got it.
The new Triple Truffle Blizzard Treat with fudge, peanut butter, and caramel truffles.
Welcome to Dairy Queen.
Enjoy a $1 Misty Slush and more.
Days Chevrolet in Jasper is dropping the hammer. Over $11,000 off MSRP on new Silverados. Just look what we've done to the price on this new LT Crew Cab. Save over $11,000 and pay just $32,500. And Days Chevy is dropping the hammer in a big way on all new Chevy Malibus. Save over $6,500 and pay just $17,900. The savings are real and they're big at Days Chevrolet in Jasper.
Better days ahead, Days Chevrolet.
Find new roads.
Papa's Pizza to Go in downtown Blue Ridge is the best in the area all-you-can-eat buffet. Call ahead or order online now at papaspizzatogo.com. Use our convenient pickup window for the best in pizza, subs, wings, breadsticks, salads, and more. And be sure to check out our lively game room. We serve lunch and dinner, catering available, take out or dine in. Papa's Pizza to Go in Blue Ridge, proud sponsors of the Fannin County Rebels.
All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up. And they stay there, and they say yeah, and they stay there. Cause all I do is win, win, win. And if you going in, put your hands in the air, make them stay there. All I do is win.
Hey, and we're back, and it's Rebel Wrap-Up on Wednesday nights here at Circuit World in Blue Ridge. Once again, thanks Blue Jeans for providing a pizza and a meal for the guys, and coaches, and Pepsi for our drinks. Our second half here, again, we have head coach Jim Pavao, offensive coordinator Travis Earls. And our second half here, we have Ethan Smith, safety, right? All right, glad to have Ethan with us. And we have Bailey White, a senior cornerback. So, guys over there, we're going to talk about Chestatee in a minute, but on your side of the ball, tell us a little bit of the difference that you played 2 games. So from your first game, Gilmer, what was the difference over there at Ringgold, and what adjustments did you have to make that you brought back this week and say, hey, we got to practice on? What did you guys see out of them last Friday night?
We got to do better. We got to do a better job, especially in the secondary, of calling the formation faster and line up to it faster. So.
You got to do a better job seeing the play?
Yeah.
Seeing what the play is and adjusting for it. They're a pretty fast team, and probably you didn't have in your first game to have to adjust that fast to a play, and that kindly is something that you took away that you got to work on this week.
Right, sir.
Coach, going over to Chestatee, I pulled them up here. Let me give you a quick rundown. Chestatee is had them here just a minute ago. Got their stats, but they've lost. Oh man, sorry about that, Coach. They won against North Hall 42-12, and then they lost against East Hall 59-37, and then they lost 43-7 to Flowery Branch. The one thing I noticed with them when we're talking about speed of Ringgold, the one thing is in 3 games they have racked up 10 sacks. So what are you seeing on film that you have with them this week in comparison of the 2 games you've already played, or what adjustments you can apply to their kind of team?
Well, that's a good question. They're very good. They have 2 outside linebackers or walked up defensive ends in a kind of 52 look that are very quick, very fast, very big. And we're going to have to account for them. And, offensive line, maybe it's a back staying in the backfield, maybe it's motion. But, there's several different ways you can try to combat that speed off the edge, whether you formation it or whether you put extra guy there to help block it. But we're going to have to make sure we have that in the game plan to stop those edge rushers.
Defensively, although against Flowery Branch they only put up 7 on the scoreboard, they lost that 43-7. The other 2 games at East Hall and North Hall, they can find the end zone. Mm-hmm. These guys, they're so defensively. What are you seeing with these guys here on the couch of the adjustments you got to make?
They've got a good running back, number 4. So they're able to run the football with him and also throw it to him. He's their big play guy. I mean, they'll get him in, run screens to him or pitch it wide. Or he's just an explosive runner. He's a big kid. He's about 6'1", 6'2", about 200 pounds. He runs well. He got some speed. So you got to make sure you know where he is. At all times, we got to be alert for where he's at. They've got a nice tight end, H-back type guy, moves around. He's a big kid, number 23. He's got nice hands. He blocks well. So we got to also at times know where he's at. Quarterback moves fairly well. Offensive line's decent. But the big thing we got to focus on take him away or limit big plays. And then really that's things we did last week against Ringgold. They had several big players on the perimeter, and we gave up really no big plays for touchdowns and only gave up 1 play over like 25 yards. So the secondary, Ethan's talking about adjusting to the speed. I felt they adjusted to the speed of the game and played it well. I think he was talking about adjusting the formations a little faster and making our checks to coverages. But I felt, in secondary they did a really good job. And so Chestatee's offense will challenge us. But I think we had a good week of practice, and I think we can, if we just know where 4's at and make sure we've got somebody keeping an eye on him, not letting him get the ball in the screen game and all that. I think we'll be all right.
I understand what you're saying with what he said earlier. So keeping an eye on where number 4 is.
Yeah, you got to know where he's at.
And adjusting the formation in enough time to where you can handle that speed.
Right.
Get set in time to handle that
get set up, rotate the coverage, or slide the coverage, or check the coverage. And because that's a big thing for us. We talk to the kids about who's the force player, who's going to contain if it's a run play. Who's who are alley players, who's the fill players, who's the cutback player, and we talk about all those different angles of pursuits. So it's important that Ethan's talking about getting the coverage checked fast enough so the guys get a little bit of time to think about, okay, what's my responsibility? Am I force, am I fill, or am I cutback?
Coach, on offense and I guess on defense, if you want to answer this, after 2 games, are there any position changes with any of the players? You had 2 games. You looked at the players from quarterback to lineman to your backfield. You see different guys run the ball in 2 different situations, game situations, somebody against Gilmer, Ringgold. Is there any adjustments, any player adjustments that have come out of these 2 games?
Well, we're still evaluating player adjustments, but I think on the offensive side of the ball, everybody who's played in the last couple of games, whether they be a sub or whether they be a starter, will play, and the game's continuing going forward. There's no immediate, big changes that I think we're looking at making. Offensive line still playing well. We've got 6 or 7 offensive linemen that can rotate in and play different positions. So we'll still do that and try to find the best matchup possible. And we'll do the same thing with receivers. We've got some different packages that we haven't really utilized yet, but we're looking at putting additional receivers on the field.
Coach, let me ask you that, because obviously once you get up to region play, some of these things in these non-conference games is getting your players to find their home. And obviously in high school football, we support all these young men, but every year the level of guys that come back, some of them, it takes a game or two and you find a home for them, or they show themselves that they want a home in a position. So are you starting to see that this year in the team, to where when you get up to region play, all your guys have found a home and you're pretty solid?
I think that's the goal, but I mean, at the same time, with non-region games, you're still, you're still trying to evaluate as fast as you can and adjust as fast as you can, because what you want to do is you want to go into region play with some momentum, and win some games, and so we're 1-1 right now, and obviously the goal is to get 2-1,
right?
And that develops momentum, and that will take us into region play, week 5, game 5. So, it's important that we, continue to evaluate players. You're always evaluating players. You're always trying to, improve their skills. You're always working on fundamentals, and you're trying to keep them healthy, because that's a big, big deal, because all of a sudden you get 2 or 3 guys hurt, and now you're shuffling things around. So,
well, from your preseason, not to interrupt you, from your preseason strength workouts, everything you put in place for preseason, are you seeing the fruits of that as far as the guys being healthy and how the team looks?
I think, we're in great shape running wise right now. We had a great off-season weight program and summer weight program. We're continuing to lift. Tuesday we had a great lift day. Today we had a great run day. But the injuries happen sometimes. You can lift, you can run, you can stretch, you can do all the things you're trying to do. You can have preventative, injury prevention with, like prehab, work. But still, sometimes it's just luck. Somebody doesn't fall on somebody's ankle. That's luck. Bad luck is all of a sudden somebody falls. I
don't want to say it, Coach, because I see a guy. Yeah, I'm gonna go for it too. Yeah. I didn't want to say it because I seen the big guy get up and walk back to the huddle, and between that and the walk to the huddle, turn in. Let me hit that again, Coach. Guys, before we go, let me ask that question, and I ask everybody. Bailey, we'll start with you. What did you come to practice to say I could work on yourself? What's the internal look when you look at yourself internally? I can work on. I want to focus on. I can do better.
It'd probably be tackling. We're getting better, just making sure they don't cut in or out or anything. I can tackle them better.
And what about for you, Ethan? What did you say when you showed up Monday internally yourself, personally? What can you work on to get better this week?
Again, just recognizing the offensive formation faster, and then calling out what coverage we should run, and maybe having to adjust some of the other players quicker.
Well, guys, we wish you well over at Chestatee Friday night. Going to see another good football team, but in Georgia high school football, every team on Friday night is a good football team, and never turn your back on them, right, Coach?
That's right. Got to be ready to play.
Every Wednesday night, we're always here at Rebel Wrap Up at Circuit World, and we're talking 3A Region 7 football. We got a couple more non-conference games before we get into conference play, but 3A Region 7 consists of Greater Atlanta Christian, North Hall, East Hall, Dawson County, Lumpkin County, and Union County. That is your region, and when we get into that region play, we're going to tighten up the questions on you, Coach. You know that. This is your 4th year, so you know when we get into region play, we have to tighten up.
We're ready. We're ready for them. Bring them.
Okay, so, hey, stick with us every Wednesday night from Circuit World in Blue Ridge, and also go over and thank Ken at Blue Jeans for providing this meal, and say hello to them at Blue Jeans Pizza. They got a full menu over there. And Pepsi, want to thank them. And let's see, Chestatee, I think I said about everything, Coach. I covered it all.
You did a good job.
Covered it. Yeah, we got to leave on that. See you next week.